Aquarius, pay close attention. Starting from August 6th, everything begins to shift. A complete reset will unfold in the first half of this month. The sky is turning, and it peaks under the full moon on August 9th, when the moonlight shines directly onto Aquarius, calling out truths that have long been hidden, not with words, but through interruptions. You thought you were still in control of your rhythm, but then an overlooked email forces you to start all over again. A seemingly stable relationship suddenly has someone vanish. A morning arrives without warning, and you wake up feeling no excitement for the very plans you once poured your heart into. Not because you're moody, but because the sky is pulling you away from what no longer fits. This full moon is not gentle. It doesn't lull you with pretty feelings. It points directly at the places you're pretending, where you say, "I'm fine," but still feel breathless. Where you stay silent, even though you know you don't belong. Where you keep moving forward, only because you haven't dared to name the ending. From August 7th to 9th, the energy starts to show its true face. The people you once admired begin to drop their masks. The plans you once trusted begin to fracture, piece by piece. And the questions you've been avoiding return at the exact right time, not to confuse you, but to wake you up before it's too late. Your emotions during this time are not random. Exhaustion with no clear cause. Disinterest in things that once felt important. A craving to be alone, even when nothing is wrong. And the feeling that something's about to happen, though no one says a word. It's not just intuition, it's a precise alignment between your psyche and the sky's movement. The full moon in Aquarius is a reminder. You can't keep living in the old version of yourself when your heart is no longer there. If you feel like you're standing at the edge of something, you're not imagining it. You're exactly where you're meant to be, right before everything starts to rewrite from within you. It's not that everything is falling apart. It's just that the thing you once called your life is being rebuilt from the very last strand of DNA. You haven't seen it yet. But what you still consider normal no longer exists in the energetic frequency of this month. Starting mid-August, a new order begins to take its place. You don't need to agree. You just need to adapt or be removed from your own life. On an invisible map, 7 doors have opened simultaneously at the 7 initiating points of planetary cycles, not to welcome you in, but to sync you with a version of yourself you've never dared to claim. You're being recoded. Nothing reacts the same anymore. What once thrilled you now drifts past like a cold wind. What once wounded you now no longer holds enough force to pierce. This is the early signal, because by February 2026, you will no longer be allowed to hide. Those who don't choose will be pushed. Those who cling will be moved. But there's a paradox. You can't debut a new version if you're still playing the old role. You can't step into what's calling you if you keep treating expired things like home. Saturn, Neptune, Pluto. 3 hidden layers of power are retreating to scan your belief system, one thing at a time. They don't need you to understand. They only need you to stop feeding what you already know no longer fits. From September to November 2025, this recalibration reaches its peak. This is no longer a pause. This is the final test before the world inside you is brought to light. From now until the end of the year, every time you forget yourself just to keep the peace, every time you stay just out of habit, every time you pretend you're fine with something that's killing you inside, the universe will register it as a delay signal. And when those signals accumulate, you will no longer have a choice. Life will intervene, not to punish you, but to complete a process you've postponed for far too long. You've already been prepared, and 2026 is no longer rehearsal. It's the day you show up fully. So watch closely. Where are you being pulled? Who are you disconnecting from instinctively? What is bothering you so much you can no longer fake it? That is your map. That is the coded path. It's not that you're losing control. It's that you're being turned toward the right direction. A grand unveiling is approaching, and you won't be allowed to bring your old face into a brand new life. You think you're feeling lost, but this isn't chaos. It's a kind of emotional intelligence blooming, as if someone is unlocking a data vault you've kept sealed for years. From August 8th to 12th, a strange kind of experience may unfold. You feel irritable, but no one's really done anything wrong. You feel isolated, but have no desire to reconnect. You find yourself speaking, but you no longer believe in what you're saying. If you feel pulled back into old conversations, old relationships, old fears, unsure about goals that once felt so clear, like your body's heavy as stone even though you've slept well and eaten normally, then it's not that your energy is low. You're simply standing at the intersection between your old self and the next door. The full moon in Aquarius always works in a very distinct way. It doesn't force you to change, it just makes it impossible to keep enduring the old. No more pretending you're fine. No more continuing without truth. No more ignoring what you know is suffocating you. And so, you begin to slip out of your old orbit, not in chaos, but in quiet ways. You look at your phone and feel no urge to reply. You sit down to work and ask yourself, why am I still doing this? You remember someone, not to return to them, but to clearly see why you left in the first place. This is the most subtle part of this month's energy. It doesn't bring drama. It brings a kind of inner restlessness, so precise it lands within you like a pin on a map. When a soul is about to ascend to a higher level, the first thing it feels is a dissonance with its current reality. You're still in the same place, still doing the same tasks, still you, but not the you from even a week ago. And if you pay attention, you'll notice everyone around you starts revealing their real version. The things you used to find appealing now feel empty. And those vague gut feelings you once had now arrive with the clarity of a statement. Not because the world has changed, but because you're finally ready to see it with new eyes. So if you're feeling uneasy with things that were once your stability, strangely distant from what you once loved, skeptical of old beliefs, and even the lines between right and wrong, know this. These aren't symptoms that need fixing. These are signals that you are unlocking a higher tier of awakening. And sometimes, the only thing you need to do is stay still until the waves settle and you realize you no longer belong to the harbor you once called home. From August 9th to 12th, a certain kind of collision will occur, whether you choose it or not. It won't be a big explosion, it won't be a dramatic event, but it will be a silent discord that you can no longer endure. You might be in the middle of a conversation and suddenly realize you're lying. You might be laughing, only to feel it's not your real laugh. You might say, I'm fine, while every cell in your body screams, don't keep going like this. This is the inner breaking point, where you can no longer turn back. Not because you're weak, but because your soul is tired of pretending to be someone else. You'll realize you can no longer say yes to things you don't believe in. You can't hold on to connections, not just out of politeness or obligation. You can't keep working without your soul in it. And that's when the full moon in Aquarius shines a light on every crack you've been covering up for years. If you notice, someone or something makes you want to withdraw instantly. A relationship you thought was stable suddenly exposes a small truth like a slow explosion. Or you start to feel like a stranger in your own life. You're not crazy. You're just being called by the sky back into your rightful place. And you'll notice something strange. What you once called stability turns out to have been an old contract between fear and silence. Now, truth no longer wants to stay hidden, and you're no longer good at hiding it. Because sometime in mid-August, a moment will arrive, impossible to ignore. A conversation that forces you to pick a side. An event that makes you realize what and who you've been sacrificing yourself for. Or simply a look, a sentence, a dream that sends you free-falling into the truth you've put on hold for far too long. From that moment on, you won't be able to go back. You'll have to face it and choose. Keep pretending, or start living honestly, even if that means letting go of everything that used to define you. The real question isn't, are you ready? It's, how much longer will you wait to live as your true self? Time frame, August 9th to 15, 2025. The peak influence of the full moon in Aquarius. You don't know what to call this feeling. All you know is every little thing is becoming strangely overwhelming. An unanswered message leaves you frozen for 5 full minutes. A casual question from a colleague makes you swallow harder than usual. A passing face in the crowd unsettles your heart, and you don't know why. From August 9th to 15th, a movement begins. Not loud, not obvious, but undeniable. It seeps into every habit, every tiny gesture. You're silently slipping away from your old version, and no one notices. No one, except you. Your body is the first to sense it. You begin to feel a strange kind of exhaustion. 8 hours of sleep, yet you're not awake. Eating on time, yet feeling empty. Lying still, yet hearing your heartbeat race over something that hasn't even happened. Emotionally, it's like being skinned alive. Everything feels raw. A familiar person's word suddenly feel foreign. Your usual environment becomes a place where you don't know where to stand anymore. This isn't a crisis. This is the golden hour of transformation. A crossing point between the you before and the you about to be. And then something happens. Not a shock, but a trigger. Maybe it's a sharp jolt, a sudden break. Someone says out loud the very thing you've been hiding, and just like that, you can't hold it in anymore. One morning in front of the mirror, realizing how much you've tensed up just to survive. A simple message that makes you cry, even though on the surface there's nothing wrong. That's when you know you can't go back anymore. No one's asking you to change. But if you don't, everything around you will begin to expel you from the life you've known. By mid-August, those no longer in resonance with you will naturally fall away. The places where you once tried to fit in will become suffocating, so much so that you'll have no choice but to walk out. No more reasons. No more convincing, only one voice inside screaming, if you can't live true, then don't live at all. And when you stand up, even if only in your mind, everything around you begins to shift. You'll start receiving signs. Not some beam of light from the sky, but the tiniest things that only the truly awake can see. A certain glance, an old song, a moment where someone says your name, the exact name you had forgotten to use for yourself. That's how the full moon in Aquarius works. It doesn't ask you to take action. It simply makes it impossible to keep being anything but honest. If your heart is beating faster as you read this, it's because your soul has started tuning in to a new frequency, and the sky has only just sent out its first signal. You've come far enough to understand you're no longer where you used to be, but you still don't know exactly where you're going. Maybe you're still holding on to pieces of an old map, the life plans that now sound like they belong to someone else. From August 9th onward, under the full moon in Aquarius, everything begins to drift off its old track, not through big disruptions, but through a quiet, undeniable feeling. I don't want to continue like this anymore. You're not falling behind. You're not lost. You're simply arriving right on time for something that has never been written before. And because it's never been written, you can't use the old rules. You can't soothe yourself with lines like, just give it time, it'll get better. You can't plan, you can't prepare. You can only admit that you haven't been yourself for a very long time. That some part inside of you has never truly been allowed to live. No instructions, no one ahead of you. Only one voice repeating in your head, I don't know how, but I know this for sure, I'm not going back. Because if you go back, you'll shrink yourself again to fit. Pretend again just to get by. Smile again while your heart slowly empties. This moon isn't here to grant more wishes. It's here to help you release what was never truly yours. A relationship you hold on to just to avoid loneliness. A version of yourself so exhausted you no longer want to wake up. A worn-out dream that even you no longer believe in. When you stand at the very end of a circle, no one chases after you, no one holds you back. There's only you and the empty space in front of you echoing one deep question. If I have nothing left to protect, what do I want to live for? And if you're seeing this video at this exact moment, it's not a coincidence. because this moon doesn't send signals to everyone. It only finds the souls who have reached the threshold of maturity, mature enough to let go of what is no longer true. You don't have to decide everything today. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't even need to name what just dissolved inside you. The universe isn't asking you to make a plan. Just stay quiet long enough to hear who you're becoming. Maybe it happens on an ordinary night, while the city sleeps and you suddenly wake up, no longer the same person. Or maybe in a moment so small, while pouring water, while waiting at a red light, and you suddenly know, I've gone too far from where I once thought I belonged, and that's enough. Enough for the old energy layers to begin breaking off, enough for new paths to begin forming. Without light, just with your willingness to live true, this is the moment. Not because you're ready, but because the final crack has opened. If you step forward, a new life will begin. Not loud, not comfortable, but real, so real that you no longer need to doubt. And if you can't leave just yet, then at least from tonight on, stop pretending. That alone is enough to begin. Thank you for staying with me until this point and still feeling your heart hasn't stopped. Leave a comment below about the one thing you know you need to let go of but have never said out loud. Because maybe that's the one thing you need to release in order to step into your real life. Subscribe to this channel if you want to be reminded at just the right moment about the signs that are opening meant only for you. Not everyone will see them. Only those who are ready to stop and begin.